Madam Speaker, my colleagues and I, Congressman Gowdy, Congressman King, Congressman Scalise, and Congressman Landry, have introduced an amendment to prohibit funds from going to the Census Bureau to enforce a criminal penalty that is imposed on people who choose not to complete the American Community Survey. The American Community Survey is not the same as the annual or every 10-year census that is required by the U.S. Constitution. The census, of course, is conducted every 10 years to count the population and includes basically 10 questions. The American Community Survey is a different survey handled by the Census Bureau that has 48 questions that's sent to 250,000 people every month, or 3 million Americans a year. The questions that it asks have nothing to do with national security, but it asks specific, in my opinion, intrusive questions to determine federal funding for certain areas, plus businesses use these answers to the question to make business decisions on locating or not locating in certain parts of the United States. I don't argue the benefit of the overall purpose of the American Community Survey. My concern is that it's intrusive, and does the federal government really have the right to ask certain questions? There are 48. I'm not going to go through all of them. However, I'd like unanimous consent to put into the record the American Community Survey.
The request will be put into the record.
3 questions I'd like to mention, however. One of them is, does your home have a flush toilet? Or do you or any member of your household have a second mortgage or home equity loan? The 3rd question I wanted to mention was, the person filling out the form is asked this question: because of a physical, mental, or emotional condition, does a person in the residence have serious difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decisions? Now, does the federal government really need this information? Should the federal government really obtain this information, this intrusive information from citizens? If Americans want to complete the American Community Survey, fill it out, give it to the Census Bureau, fine. But they shouldn't be required to do so with the threat of a fine. I've heard from many people, not only in Texas but all over the country, that they are concerned when people come from the Census Bureau or subcontractors to have them fill out this questionnaire. These people from the Census Bureau are contracted by them. They start with phone calls. First there's one a week, and then many times there's one every day. In one particular case, I had an individual who is a single mother with a young child, said the Census Bureau worker started coming to her house, sitting out in the front of her house waiting for her to come in. And then when she's in the residence, the worker is peeking through the window to see if she's in there, knocking on the door to have her come to the door to answer the American Community Survey. Now, does that really need to take place in the United States to just get a 48-question survey filled out? I don't think so. The means to get this information does not justify the result. And if people don't want to complete the survey, they shouldn't be required under our law by penalty of a fine to do so. I hope that we do in this country as the Canadians have done. They've made this type of information voluntary. They still obtain the information from people who want to voluntarily give the information. As smart as the Census Bureau is about collecting information, they can certainly do this without having to go door to door, 250,000 people every quarter or every month to do this. Figure out new innovative ways to obtain this information voluntarily. Maybe talk to some of the polling agencies that have specific information about all kinds of polls in the United States to obtain the information with the result to be for businesses to use and for federal funding to be going into those areas. So this amendment simply says there will be no penalty for people who refuse to fill out the survey. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.